Hello internet, my name is Lave and I finally watched Incredibles 2, which is a sequel I've been waiting 14 years for, and that wait was made even more excruciating by the fact that over here in the UK we got it a month later than everyone else. I guess because of the World Cup and because kids are breaking up for summer like now, so ka-ching for Disney. Was it worth the wait? Absolutely. This one picks up directly where the first one left off, and with superheroes still being illegal, the Parr family are now recruited by a communications tech giant who want to give superheroes a good name again. The best way to do this, they think, is to send Elastigirl out on PR campaigns following her missions, leaving Bob at home, literally holding the baby. But when a new villain rises called Screenslaver, the family must once again unite to save the day. So before I get into it, I've got to talk about the first Incredibles, which I adore. I even based a huge chunk of my dissertation to the film in my final year at university. That's how much I love it. Now, prior to its release, Pixar was still perfecting their human characters in their films. If you think back to Toy Story 2, you've got Owl the toy collector and Jerry the cleaner, which were the first characters that showed significant improvements, but they still weren't quite perfected yet. And still in their subsequent films, human characters were always side characters. So when it was announced that they were making an entire film featuring human characters, there were still question marks whether they could pull it off. And boy, did they make it work. The animation and movement of the characters was smoother and more natural. The cloth and hair simulation was vastly improved. But all this stemmed from good character design, with each character reflecting their personality and in turn their super abilities. The driving force behind its success was the writer and director Brad Bird, who was uncompromising with his vision and made Pixar push the boundaries and the limits of what they could achieve. So it's crucial that he's back writing and directing in this sequel, and he's doing it again. I just feel that with 14 years experience, the team at Pixar are better equipped to handle his vision. Again, the lighting, rendering and animation has all been improved, but crucially not to the point that it's removed from the first film. It still feels like it's set in the same world, which is simultaneously futuristic but dripping with nostalgia. It's tipping its hat to the Bond and spy movies just as much as it is to superhero movies. It also means that the tone is exactly the same as the first one, with many of the themes carrying over. At the core, it's still a family drama, just a family that have super abilities. Bob and Helen still have their disagreements but still want the best for their children and go about it in different ways. And as for the focus being on Elastigirl going out and doing the hero stuff and Bob staying at home, I was a bit apprehensive about that. I'm all for Elastigirl going out and doing her thing. She is basically Spider-Man but with the powers of Mr. Fantastic. She's awesome, but I was worried about the treatment of Bob Parr staying at home. I was worried that they were going to make him incompetent and stupid, and it sort of goes that way, but I love the way they resolve it. It's super. With regards to the kids, Violet gets more screen time as it explores the effects of leading a double life has on her adolescent life. Dash is also in there, but I wouldn't say the balance is as even as it was in the first one, but as a trade-off it means that we get more of Jack, who 100% steals the show. My favourite scene, without question in the film, is a scene where Jack has a one-on-one fight with something. It's so good. Now, the new villain Screenslaver, who hypnotises victims via TV and computer screens, true, is not as good as Syndrome from the first one, but I wouldn't say that it's a bad villain by any stretch of the imagination. The problem I had with the character is that the film makes quite a big deal of revealing who the character is when they practically telegraph who it is. I found it quite predictable, but then I don't think kids are going to go into this knowing that or predicting it, so I'll let that one slide. What also made me laugh is just how ironic it was when the villain is doing a big monologue about how we, the audience, consume stuff via screens. He says something along the lines of, we watch talk shows but we don't talk with each other. We watch game shows and we don't play games. I found it incredibly ironic that we are sitting there watching a Disney film where they own the monopoly on everything. They own Pixar, they own Star Wars, they're gonna own Fox. I guess irony can be pretty ironic sometimes. But when the action set pieces are this good, I don't care. They rival, if not surpass, their live action superhero counterparts. They're extremely entertaining and wonderfully realised. I already mentioned Jack has a one-on-one fight at one moment, but there's a couple of other hand-to-hand combat scenes which have real gravitas and feel like they have real stakes to it. I was like, whoa, that is badass. In terms of the cast and the voice acting, Pixar pretty much got it spot on first time around, so the majority of them are all back. Holly Hunter, Craig T.Nelson, Sam Jackson's also back as Frozone. I think they got a different kid to voice Dash, but to be honest, I didn't notice it. There's a couple of new additions, Bob Odenkirk and a few other superheroes. They all fit their characters perfectly, but I want to give a special mention to Jonathan Banks, who's voicing the character of Rick Dicker, who was actually played by Bud Lucky in the first one, but sadly passed away. And they honour his character and Bud Lucky in the sweetest way, with the characters actually thanking him for all he's done. It's very sweet and very touching. If you can't tell, I thoroughly enjoyed this one. My only real negative is that in the second and third act, it does get a bit choppy and doesn't wrap things up as smoothly as the first one did. It feels like it rushes to get to the end. But other than that, it's pretty much the perfect sequel. Not as good as the first one for me, but still extremely entertaining. So that's my thoughts on Incredibles 2, and pause the video if you want to take a closer look at my enjoyment tracker now. The last thing I will say about the sequel is that I did have certain expectations going into it. I mean, I'm such a big fan of the first one, I couldn't help but build up a picture of what we were going to get. I love the first one because it feels so comprehensive in its vision. Not only do you see Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl in their prime, and then they have kids and get older, but then you also see them evolve and get fitter as they get back into the superhero game. And when this one was announced, I was thinking, oh man, they're going to apply that, but now to the whole family. So we're probably going to get to see a teenage Dash and a Violet maybe leaving home. It doesn't go there. I think the entire film spans about a week, which isn't a bad thing. As I say, everything tonally fits together with the first one, and I guess leaves it all open for an Incredibles 3, which I'm still incredibly excited for. I just hope we don't have to wait 14 years for the next one. So thanks very much for watching my review of Incredibles 2. I really do appreciate it. If you can, give this video a like, and don't forget to share the Lave. Subscribe.